The real reason why most people's businesses are failing is because they don't know how to sell, they don't know how to convert leads, they don't know how to build desire, and they don't know how to close. It's like a disease to people, but it is the bloodline of every single person's business. The dream that we've been sold, they want people wrapped up in 6 or 7 finance deals in their early 20s. Because the moment they do that, they've got you for life. You're fucked.
What was it kind of like growing up on a council estate when you're a kid with huge ambitions?
Every single day walking to school, there was always this sense of fear.
What would you say to those who are waiting for another property crash?
If you are waiting, you are going to lose. That is the reality, yeah? What I believe in is the 7-7-7 plan. 7 income streams within the next 7 years that will generate you at least 7 figures a year in a tax-efficient environment. How do you get there? What do you need to do? Well, first of all, you need to know.
Right, so Liam, thank you for coming down today.
Great.
All the way from Essex, Chelmsford,
Chelmsford,
right?
Yes.
Nice. We've got another fellow Essex guy in the room, Harry, who makes the magic happen behind the scenes. So, Liam, for the viewers that don't know, who are you and what is your kind of message within the entrepreneurial space?
Great, good. So, my business is called Assets for Life. We are coming up to our 10th year anniversary in September this year. And I own the UK's leading property business and wealth training organisation. And what I believe in is helping ordinary people go and get extraordinary results and really master something I call the circle of wealth, which is how to make money, manage money, and multiply money so people can live the life that they truly deserve and desire.
Amazing. Yeah, that's good to hear. I've definitely seen you pop up a lot over the years on YouTube ads. I feel like your face is definitely recognizable in the entrepreneurial space. So where did it kind of all start for you with your entrepreneurial journey for you to get to, you know, a multi-7-figure level entrepreneur status as you are today?
I've always, ever since being a young lad, I've always had this obsession with money and success. And I believe the reason for that was because I saw my mum and dad break up when I was just 2 years of age. My dad was in the army, he travelled the world. I lived with my mum, and it was really tough for my mum. She was a single parent. She brought me and my second brother up. She got remarried, and that was a difficult marriage for her. We lived on rough council estates. And I used to spend my Saturdays over in the local newsagents. You know, on a council estate, you get like the laundrette, you get like the shop, the newsagents, right? So I used to go and spend my Saturdays looking hours and hours at magazines and obsessing over fast cars and men in suits and good-looking girls. And in my
you were looking at a top shelf, weren't you?
Yeah, top shelf. and in my bedroom, it was just plastered with, you know, really cool stuff. And somewhere in that period, being 6, 7, 8, I just always remembered wanting to look after my mum. And I said, I want to get us off this council estate. I want to help my mum get a house. And what happened, it was quite interesting because my mum introduced me to a friend of hers called Tim. And he was a market trader. And he would take me weekends to the markets, and he had one of these big lorries. I don't know if they still do them, but these huge markets, they have these big lorries. They have like 3 or 4 guys on their headsets, and they're throwing stuff into the crowd. And I got surrounded by that, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, this is what I love to do, like selling. And I became the kid at school that could get you whatever you wanted. I started selling like He-Man and Puff Chris. I don't know if anyone remember Puff Chris, but Puff Chris and He-Man and then when I started to spend time with Tim, I used to go into school with 2 bags. I'd have the school bag, and I wasn't interested in that one. And then I'd go in with like the Reebok bag with the jeans and the perfumes and the cigarettes, and I just became that kid at school. It was like, just go see Liam, he'll sort you out. So I used to buy something from Tim for £10, go and sell it for £20, and it's like this bit in the model, well, that's my money. And then I was giving money to my mum, and, you know.
School was easy as well. Like, you could just sit, like, I remember like, even, like, buying chewing gum and selling it for, like it's like 30p a pack. Or cigarettes were right, because it's like £3, isn't it? You sell them for, like, £1 each.
Yeah.
It's good return and good ROI, right?
It was good ROI. It was a real buzz. It gave me a sense of purpose in school. You know, it gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of belonging. And it fed whatever was inside of me at that time. You know, it fed a need to prove to the world that I can make stuff happen. And to really the driving force behind that time as a younger teenager was my mum and my brother.
So growing up on a council estate, I'm sure you were probably exposed to certain things that perhaps kids shouldn't be exposed to. What was it kind of like growing up on a council estate when you're a kid with, you know, huge ambitions? I could imagine a lot of people within your environment were very different. So run us through what it was like growing up on a council estate.
The one thing I do remember is that almost every single day walking to school, there was always this sense of fear. And I'm not one for confrontation. And even back then, because I grew up in an environment which was volatile, you know, my mum's second marriage was really bad. And I used to watch my mum get beaten, and then I would get beaten, and then my brother would get the backlash. And living in council estates, it was like there was a lot of toxic behaviour, you know, a lot of, you know, violence and people not being nice to each other. So what happened as a growing up in that environment, I just sort of shielded myself, and it was like I just keep myself to myself. My goal is to be successful, and that is what I'm going to focus on doing. So I just shut the noise out, didn't really let anyone in, but also through that process, it was like I also found it hard to trust people. And then that sort of stayed with me for quite a few years, to be fair. How
do you shake that? Because I feel like as humans, we're all kind of a product of that child we once were. I think they say between the ages of 5 and 7, they're your most formative years where you just absorb information like a sponge, right? So when you were going into like your early adult life, did you still kind of have that level of trauma where you were struggling to trust people? And how did you kind of deal with that day to day?
Yes, it's a really good question. I think that not letting people too close stayed with me for many, many, many years, probably until my 30s, and I'm sure we'll get there. But I would let someone in so far, but I was always just focused on my goal, which was to be successful, have loads of money, have a good life, and make sure my family's good. So the drive to do that was so prolific. And I just had this like mental attitude that no one's going to stop me. I don't need anyone. No one's going to stop me. I can do it no matter what. And it got me so far. And then in my 30s, due to a few other things that were going on, it was like, you know what? I'm tired of trying to do it all on my own. And actually, I don't fucking have all of the answers. And unless I start doing things a bit differently, my life isn't going to be where it wants me to be.
Me and Luke were talking the other day that information is so accessible now. Like, it's never been perhaps easier to get information on how to start a business. But for example, if we go back to when you were growing up and you had this ambition, I know you mentioned you were trying to look on the magazine shelves and get in the nice cars. Was it kind of harder to formulate that drive of what you actually wanted due to a lack of information? Like, what was kind of your plan in your mind?
Well, I was sort of running on autopilot as a teenager. So it was like, well, I've just got to learn how to hustle. And actually what happened when I was in year 11 at school doing GCSEs, I walked into town and there was a road called Head Street. And out on the corner of my left eye, I saw this big yellow board in the window, and it said door canvassers required, £25 a lead. It's like, bloody hell, that sounds quite good. What's all that about? And it was Zenith windows, 16 years and over. I'm like, fuck, I'm only 15. Uh-huh. So I go round the back of the building, I dump my school bag, my blazer and my tie. I go into Zenith windows and I'm like, hey, yeah, my name's Liam. I've seen your sign. I'm 16 years of age. What's this all about? And they said, we're looking for door canvassers. You go out in the evenings, you do weekends, you knock on doors. And for every lead that you generate, where a sales rep goes in and does a pitch, as long as they give the quote, you're going to get £25 a lead. And I was like, bloody hell, this sounds pretty good. If I do 4 of them, that's 100. If I do 8 of them, that's 200. I think I'm only 15 years of age. And so I entered that world of door knocking and door canvassing. And to loop back on what you asked me,
we want to give a shout out to our good friend and previous guest on the show, Matt Hall. Matt is a CBD accredited business strategist that has been an entrepreneur for 15 years and has helped thousands of people transform their lives and businesses. Now he's holding a totally free webinar designed to help you. The webinar will help new and aspiring business owners get clarity on their business model and ensure they follow a strategy designed to generate thousands per month, every month, while working less and making a bigger impact. On the night, Matt will also be opening the doors on his flagship program, Online Business Mastery, which he only does once a year. If you're serious about making big money in 2025 and don't want to miss out on this incredible opportunity to work with Matt, you need to be on this call. Click the link to sign up now.
In those early years, it just came down to pure hard work. That's it. I didn't have a plan. I was just someone that was willing to work my nuts off and do whatever it took to go and put pound notes in my bank account. And that's really what happened, yeah.
Do you think you can teach that work ethic? Because you were clearly born with a drive and ambition, and I think all 3 of us are quite similar to that regard. We've always had a crazy drive and ambition. So for people who are trying to get into entrepreneurship, like, can you teach that, in your opinion? Or do you think you're just kind of born with it?
You know what? People go, yep, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And the reality is they're not. And maybe the reason they're not is because there's not a big enough driving force or reason to do it. And tens of millions of people up and down the UK, they're just comfortable in their own shit right now. They say they're willing to do whatever it takes, but the moment it gets difficult, they bail, they bitch, they moan, they struggle, they go back to their old way of doing things, which is maybe not asking for help. I believe that if someone's purpose is big enough, and I believe someone's, the purpose and the reason, and almost if they're in enough pain, if you're in enough pain and you've got a real good vision and purpose of where you want to be, and you're willing to do whatever it takes, I believe anyone can do it. It's just that most people aren't willing to.
And a lot of time it's like people around them, isn't it? Like that, depending on who you're surrounded by, they're like scared. Like Alex Ormozy, he's talks about his loads, but he's saying about like a lot of times people are scared to do something, and then they're like, when you actually dig deep into it, it's because they're scared that it's not certain people's opinion, and you narrow it down, it's actually like 1 or 2 people's opinions. Like, okay, right, so you're actually going to control your whole life, right, based on that one person who might say something to their mate about you because you're trying to do something and they can't do it themselves.
Yeah. I'll give an example, right? Someone wants to become a property investor. Now, one of the things you've got to be pretty good at to go and get deals is you've got to go into agents. You either got to walk in or you got to pick up the phone and you got to make the phone calls. It is unbelievable the amount of fear that goes through someone doing that one simple task. And then they go, oh, it's just not working for me. Oh, okay, no, okay. Just let me know what's going on. Yeah, how many agents have you called? Huh? Well, when did you last go on some viewings? Oh, no, I haven't done any of that stuff. Okay, great, no problem. Well, that's going to be a good start. Yeah. Let's get to the bottom of what's going on. And it just comes down to a lack of skill set, a lack of belief. And like you said, people are so absorbed about what other people are going to say about them. So I always do this thing, right? And hopefully viewers will like this. Okay, take a particular task. Let's say you go and do that in the next few moments. What is the best outcome that can possibly happen as a result of you doing that task? Like the best outcome. I go and make money, I get a deal, and I make 200 grand. Okay, great. Is that pretty good? Okay, great. What's the worst possible outcome of you making that phone call? People feel like they're going to die. And it's when we get to the bottom of it, it's like, oh, they might reject me and say no. And it's like, come on, wake up.
You just made me think of something I haven't thought about before. So I come from the environment where I used to have to make 300 calls a day. I wasn't allowed a chair, and I was earning literally basically no basic salary either. So picking up a phone to me is nothing. Like if someone hangs up, I always got taught from my earliest manager, the worst that's going to happen, they're going to hang up the phone. You're not going to see that person. It's just a phone call. Do you think maybe people who want to build that resilience should just go into sales for 6 months? Like, what's your standpoint on that?
Yeah. Like you, I've been in sales pretty much since I was in nappies. I truly believe that it is one of the most important skills that every single person must master if they want to become successful. You know, you look at how many businesses are failing right now in the UK because of competition and taxation and laws coming in. But the reality is, the real reason why most people's businesses are failing is because they don't know how to sell, they don't know how to convert leads, they don't know how to build desire, and they don't know how to close. And they would never, ever in a million years like to be branded a salesperson. It's like a disease to people, but it is the bloodline of every single person's business. So yeah, master sales, I think, is so important, because once you master sales, you can build relationships, you can have more conversations. You just know that, you know, you might have to get 50 no's before you get a yes, and certainly knocking on those doors, you know, 7 days a week. I actually left college after 3 weeks and just became a full-time door knocker for Zenith Windows. I was like, I can, make a fortune here just knocking on doors. And that's what I did, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, rain, snow, hail. I had tens of thousands of doors slammed in my face.
Definitely, that one definitely builds resilience, because you're not even like calling someone on the phone or walking in, like you're knocking on someone's house, and that's like people
face
find
to
it.
face, man.
Yeah, it's
in
good.
the cold, knuckles are probably
All you do, I figured it out, right? You just put your foot in the door, and then they can't slam it, right? I figured it out, yeah.
No, it's such an important thing too, because like with sales and just communication, but a lot of people don't give it enough time. Like we do it at a marketing agency, so we'll get somebody leads, right? If they're calling their own leads, and then they'll be like, I haven't sold any. But okay, how many times have you reached out to everyone? I called them all last night. Okay. So like, how long you've had the leads for? A couple of weeks. So like, have you only tried them once? Yeah. Okay. Well, do you not think like, how many times is your ring and you don't answer it? You don't. Just don't try hard enough. But then, I don't know.
My old manager, when I was in sales, he taught me about the 80-20 rule. There's loads of abbreviations to it, but he basically said, I think it was 80% of sales are made between 6 and 9 points of contact, but only 20% of sales people ever make more than 3 calls. So then you've got 20% of the salespeople that are getting 80% of the deals, and 80% are sharing 20% of the revenue. Do you think that it's a natural skill, or do you think it can be learned? I'd be interested to get your take on this.
I definitely believe that you can learn this for sure if you want to. I think you can learn anything if you really want to. And then the way that you really learn, this is my opinion, is you've got to do. You can go to a course, and I run lots of courses. You can read lots of books. You can listen to lots of podcasts, and you can get the information. The information is not the problem. The problem is people don't do. So the only way to really learn and to master something is to then do the phone calls. It's to role play your script. It's to get out in the field and test things. I call it test, tweak, repeat. Nothing is necessarily perfect. And even today, and some would say as a master negotiator, even today, I'm always wanting those little tweaks, the pauses, the tonality, the eye contact. There's all this stuff that we can get better and better at. But I definitely believe if you want to do it, you can learn sales, because if you made 50 phone calls, you're going to be at this level. But it's impossible not to make 500 calls and be at a better level. You will just naturally get better over time.
I agree with that. I never used to believe it though, until I worked on a certain floor, And there was this one super introverted guy, just like the opposite of what you'd picture a salesperson to be. He was top biller, absolutely killing it, because he was so good at building a desire, digging out the pain, and also helping people with genuine solutions. So I do think it's definitely a transferable skill. So you dropped out of college to go into commission-only sales. I'm sure there's probably people listening to this podcast right now who are in a safe route. Maybe they're in university, maybe they're in a stable job. They have a dream. People around them might perhaps say, it's risky, it's too risky. What if it doesn't work? What would you say to them?
Look, making any type of change is going to be scary. What I would find even scarier is trying to climb some type of corporate ladder, have a job, which for most people mean just over broke. And the reality is almost everyone in this country that is in a job, they are broke. Now, of course, you've got exceptions and you've got some super high flyers and all that type of jazz. I get that. But even some of them, their quality life is really poor because they work 100 hours in their corporate business. So I would say, what do you really want out of life? And it's risk versus reward. You know, so many people want the reward. They want the nice holidays. They want the financial independence. They want to build a life for themselves. And they're just not willing to take an element of risk. And the more risk, potentially the more reward. I would say get around the right people. And entrepreneurship is not for everyone. You know, where would we be if everyone was an entrepreneur? You know, we need doctors, we need nurses, we need engineers, we need shopkeepers, we need people delivering the newspapers. So the economy needs people in a job. I just believe that if you've reached a point in your life where you just know that path is not going to serve you to the highest level, then be brave, get some mentoring, get around some good people, come up with a plan. It's never been easier to launch products and services and make money.
It's very true. I suppose with that, it's become more saturated than ever as well. I would wonder as well, I'd be interested to see a stat on if you're on 100K a year PAYE and you're living around here in the South, what the quality of life's actually like. Because as you know, if you get paid PAYE, it is not tax efficient at all. I could be wrong. I'm known for getting stats wrong. So Harry, can you fact check this, please? Otherwise I'm going to get the trolls on TikTok at my throat. So 100K a year, I don't even think they clear $6,000 after tax. I think it's about 5.5K. I'm going to fact check that. So how much money do you think you actually need to live a prosperous life? I guess it's subjective depending on lifestyle, but do you think really the only way to thrive in the UK in 2025 and beyond is to actually run a business?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So give or take, on 100K a year, you're paying an insane amount of tax. If you have a business from £110,000 a year, you can draw down your 12,750 as your salary. You can take out 37,700 dividends. You can put £60,000 into your SAS pension, and on £110,000, you'll only pay in the region of £3,250 in tax. Mm-hmm. That's a lot different to what you just quoted, right?
Very.
So this is fact. This is fact. One of the only ways to reduce taxes in the UK is to be a business owner. And it's great, you know, you can set up a business, you can run legitimate business expenses through your business.
A lot of business trips.
A lot of business trips, yeah, exactly, yeah.
A lot of client entertainment.
Yeah, you got to make sure you're doing it legally. You've got to make sure you've got a good accountant. But, you know, I had a call with my tax advisor just a few weeks ago, and we summarized there's over 16 different things that you can be running in through your limited company to reduce your taxes. So I believe, even if you're just doing this as a side hustle, I believe everyone tuning into this, they've got something that they could create and sell and do, where by having that and let's just call it a limited company. By having that limited company, you then put your mobile phone through it, you can put your petrol through it, you can put all your legitimate expenses, you can put your laptops through it, your pens, your papers, your printers, and all this type of stuff. And what happens as a UK business owner is that you can live legitimately through your business, reduces your taxes. You then take out the amount you want to make, and that you might want to keep under 50 grand or keep under 100 grand. And then you can have a SAS pension where you can then put in your pension contributions. So there is smart ways in the UK right now where you can be really tax efficient. And all these people are, and I get it, right? I'm moving to Dubai and and I'm going to go in and get set up a company. By the time you add in all your flights and your costs and all the travel, you might as well just set up the best tax efficient structures in the UK, pay your tax and get better at selling and make more money that way.
Yeah, I think if you've got the mind, I've always had this mindset is, okay, if I'm going to get taxed 25% on my profits, I just need to bill 50% more. And then it doesn't really feel like you're paying as much tax. I guess you'd probably pay more tax, actually. It's probably not the best point. So talking about the UK, just whilst we're on the UK, there's so much negativity around the UK right now. I think a millionaire leaves the UK every 45 minutes, I read, right? What are your thoughts on the UK for setting up a business in 2025? Do you still think it's a place you can thrive? Or do you think people are just about surviving here throughout the majority?
I think tens of millions of businesses are suffering, and the government is definitely not helping. And they seem to be squeezing hard-working people up and down the country. They're just squeezing the life out of everyone. And, we can't really change that. The governments are going to do what the governments are going to do. They're all as bad as each other, in my view. And I tend to not just buy into the bullshit that's taking place. So we can't change what the government is going to do. So what can we change? Well, you have to take responsibility. And you have to say, well, this is the cards I've been dealt, and how can I become better? How can I be more efficient? How can I get around better people? How can I break through the marketplace? And yes, it may be tougher in some industries, but with the use of social media, with the use of great mentors, with the use of using your companies correctly, I believe that with the right products, with the right solution, and you're really, really clear on who you want to go and help, I genuinely believe that people can thrive here in the UK over the next 5 or 10 years. I do believe that.
Say, for example, in the new budget, if the government were to raise taxes on businesses, raise taxes on income tax, do you have like a kind of enough's enough type of button where you would just perhaps go to Dubai or Cyprus or somewhere more tax efficient? Or do you want to stay here?
I love to travel, and my wife, and I've got I've got a beautiful wife, 4 great kids, and I've got 2 older kids. Ida's 20 now, Charlie's 18. He's on the phones 200 dials a day. Yes,
Got to be done, mate.
He's getting smashed up, right? Yeah, but he's great. He's doing really well. He's earning good money. He's learning how to invest. He's becoming a masters of influence, and then my 2 little ones. I've got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm seriously considering moving my little ones out of private school because I don't want my kids hanging around with all the other shit kids, yeah? And, kids are awful these days in some ways. And I do believe that the schooling system is broken in many ways. So we are talking about potentially moving out of the UK, maybe spend 3 months in the UK. I'm building a villa right now that I run my international retreats in Marbella, 3 months in Marbella, 3 months in Dubai, and 3 months somewhere else. That's not for the reasons necessarily of tax, because I feel like I've got really good tax efficient structures in the UK anyway. And that's more of a lifestyle choice. Mm-hmm. But, who knows? Yeah, if they go and raise corporation tax from 25% to 35%, and they raised income tax, another 5 or 10%. Yeah, I think naturally it's going to force a lot of high net worths out of the country even more. And maybe at that point I would consider another tax efficient structure.
quick pause from the podcast to give a special shout out to one of our sponsors, the Rejuvenation Doctors. The Rejuvenation Doctors is a hair transplant clinic in the northwest of England in Bury, owned by Dr. Jamie. Now, I can personally vouch for these guys, as I myself around 2 months ago had a hair transplant from Dr. Jamie, and I can't wait to see the growth in the next 3 to 6 months. The service was amazing. It was very VIP. He looked after me throughout, and he made a very uncomfortable experience extremely comfortable and caring. Now, boys, if your hairline's going back, if you're receding, if you've got that McDonald's hairline, do not wait until it's too late. Message Dr. Jamie today at the Rejuvenation Doctors. His tags are in the link to the description of this podcast, and he will sort out your hairline just the same as he's sorting out mine. It makes sense. Marbella building a villa. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So my dream was always to build a villa out in Marbella. Marbella is like my second home. I moved out to Spain when I was 20, and I lived in Spain for many years. Did many years out in Marbella. Lived the high life, went off the rails, and but Marbella has always been like my home.
It's a great place.
It's a great place. I love it. You know, you can be in the madness, or you can be in, you know, really nice parts. You've got the whole coastline.
See all the yachts.
The yachts. You've got the cars. You've got the beaches. You've got great food, and I've always loved sand, sea, mountains, and you've got just everything in Marbella. So what happened in 2018, I started to run retreats for high-level property investors and business owners. So I would run retreats in Marbella. I would rent out really nice villas and would run the retreats. And, you know, I've been doing that ever since. And we do around about 10 or 12 weeks a year in Marbella, just running different groups. And then a few years ago, I was like, you know what, it's not a smart thing me keep renting villas at 25,000 euros a week. I may as well just go and buy something. And that's what I did. You know, took action, you know, spoke to my team. They found me a plot, and then we've been doing that ever since. So yeah. It should. There's been some major delays, and there's been the developer I was using went bankrupt. So it was like, get my money back. Or I just go and buy the company. It's like, fuck. Really? I just go buy the company, yeah.
That's a big flex.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just go buy the company. I'll just take it off him, become the owner, bring in my own team. So obviously that comes with a few headaches. But I've now got a really good project manager, a really good builder. We're just waiting for some bank finance. So everything's been delayed by about a year, but the shell's pretty much up. And then hopefully we are going to be on site in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Why did it actually make sense to buy it then? Like, how did that work?
Well, because I'm buying it in a tax efficient structure.
Aye.
So it's owned in a Spanish company, which is owned by a UK company, which was funded through pensions and company loans and things along that nature. And why not go and buy it? Yeah, and basically what will happen is that Spanish company will then rent it out to Assets for Life. So the income that's generated will cover the mortgage.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
I then get to use it for retreats.
Which is the purpose in the first place.
Which is the purpose. Yeah. So I can scale my retreats business to about 30 weeks a year over there. And then the rest of the time, you know, that could open up the gateway for me to potentially spend more time there with the family and that type of stuff.
The retreats business, that must be that sounds fun to run, that one, right? Is that...
Yeah, when I went into the wealth space almost 10 years ago, and, you know, I was one of those people running to the back of the room at an event, you know, investing £25,000 on 2 interest-only credit cards. I was absolutely on my knees. And I went through that process, got mentored, and basically it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. You know, did 11 deals in my first year, raised £1.5 million joint venture funding, did a land development deal, built 7 flats and 2 houses. And then what happened is there was this guy on stage called Paul. And I don't know if you've ever been with someone that's just wowed you. You've looked at them, you're like, oh my goodness, what he is doing is like insane. And I watched this guy, Paul, and there's like 200 people in this event. And he just had me mesmerized from the word go. And then at the end of his 90-minute talk, you've got literally 80% of the audience running to the back of the room. So I went like this to Jay, who's one of my business partners. I said, that is what we need to do to go and raise joint venture funding. Sod doing this one-to-one thing. I'm going to learn public speaking. And that's what I did. And through that process, I then set up my own training company. And because I'd gone on a retreat, I went on a speaker business retreat over in Florida. And that completely transformed
the
my
Americans
life.
are good at it.
Oh, it was just, well, it was like UK based, but we were just doing it in the US. But I went over there and it was like, I came back a different person. Yeah. And I said to my wife, who's my partner at the time, I said, Holly, I said, oh my goodness, watch this space. I said, I'm going to go on retreats every single year and we're going to run our own retreats one day. And that's where the whole retreat thing came from. And I've been running them ever since. So this year we've got 12 weeks in Marbella. I now do a ski retreat. I do a kite surfing retreat. We've got a Vegas retreat, which I'm going on next week. So that's like 16 weeks now of retreats. And each retreat has around 25 people on.
And what is it like? Different speakers? How's it
well, the way the retreat model works is that we've got different levels. So we've got levels 1 through to 5, and each level retreat will give the client a slightly different outcome. So they're all designed slightly different to give someone a different type of experience. So we do something called Vivid Vision. That's one of the first retreats you'll go on, where you map out a 3-year Vivid Vision plan. Then the next one's like 10x, and we do like arrow breaking and board breaking and really like beat people up and build them up again. And then we've got like money mastery retreats where it's more about money and investing and wealth creation and tax efficiency. So what it does, it keeps the clients coming back time and time again.
Yeah.
They keep growing with me year after year after year. I've got some people on like, their 7th retreat with me. Oh, really? And it's like my retreat goers are typically our best, most successful clients. And it's fun and I get paid.
Sure.
And
is it different speakers or is it always your team?
I probably will do about 3 or 4 weeks this year, and then it's my different JV partners and different people we get in. Yeah,
decent. So it's funny. It's a retreat, obviously, for everyone's business expense, anyways. And then you're learning so much, and then you're networking with so many good people around you. Right?
Networking, business partnerships, eating good food. And this is what I've over these last 10 years. It's like, well, what business can I create around the lifestyle that I want for me and my family? Yeah, and that sort of ticks a big box. A lot of my wife comes on quite a few of those. My kids come with me as well.
My eyes literally lit up when you said building a villa in Marbella. I was like, that is sick. That's what I want to do one day. Because people talk a lot about Dubai all the time. I don't think Marbella always gets the recognition it deserves. It's not as hot as Dubai. The lifestyle's there. Port of Banus Harbour first time I went there was 2 years ago. Inspired me. I'm seeing Rolls Royces on top of yachts, and then the yachts have little yachts and helicopters on top of the yachts. Like, you're rich if your yacht has a yacht on the yacht, right? Yeah. On the side. I've never seen anything like it. Right, so talking about wealth creation, what would you say are the best strategies for wealth creation in 2025 if you're an individual who could be working hard and perhaps they have £50,000 in the bank? They're not really too sure where to start. What would you say are some good strategies for wealth creation?
Okay, good. So what most people do is they work on the 40-40-40 plan. And maybe we've all been told at some point, the society told us, go and work hard, you've got to get good grades, go to A-levels, go through the crappy educational system, get a corporate job or some career. You're going to work 40 hours a week for 40 years, and then you'll retire on 40% of your salary. Now, that may have worked back in the 70s and 80s, but it definitely doesn't work today. And tens of millions of people are being caught in the financial trap, and they're working harder than ever. The spending power on the pound, I believe, is the worst it's been since World War II. Wages are going down, cost of living is going up, interest rates, inflation, blah, blah, blah. All like, it's really, really bad out there for most people. So what I believe in is the 7-7-7 plan. And the ultimate goal is to have at least 7 income streams that will generate you within the next 7 years. So have it as a 7-year plan. that will generate you at least 7 figures a year in a tax efficient environment. So 777. How do you get there? What do you need to do? Well, first of all, you need to know that your current situation is shit and you can't get yourself out of it. And you might need to pivot and just make a few changes to your life and find that drive and that desire to want to go and create wealth. So if you're on that path already, I really put it into 3 main categories. Number 1 is definitely become a property investor. Income follows assets. And I could talk for hours about property investing and why it's so good and all the different income streams and low money down and, the one and done and joint ventures and how to raise money. But definitely wealthy people, they have property portfolios. You do the work once, you get paid for a lifetime. Yes, are there headaches? Yes, are there tenant issues? Yes, will there be some ups and downs? Of course there will be, but like any business, you've got to sort of navigate through that. So number 1 is definitely property. The UK has one of the strongest property markets in the world. And once you own that asset, no one can take it away from you. No one. So AI, governments, what's going on right now, like you own that is in your family. And if you set it up correctly, then that can be super tax efficient where you can pass it down generation after generation after generation. So number 1, I definitely recommend getting property as quickly as you can. That's the first thing. Number 2, I believe that every single person should have a business which is able to be profitable. Like we've already spoke about, you can have a pension, the right type of pension, you can have it tax efficient. But, I love business. I believe anyone can start a business if they really want to. And the aim of the game is to have income coming from your property, profits coming from your business tax efficiently. And then the third thing you want to focus in on is moving as much money as possible into your investment pot. And then the third element is actually mastering investing and become an investor, become your own fund manager. You don't need an IFA. You don't need the banks. You don't need some guru online trying to pick the next meme coin. All of that stuff I don't believe in. What I believe in is mastering becoming an investor, understanding money, and then learning how to deploy that money into safe, secure stock market investments that will compound over the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Would that be like the S&P 500 type of thing?
That could be one option, yeah. Okay. So for example, your UK ISA allowance is £20,000 a year if you're over 18, and it's 9,000 if you're a child. Something which could be a smart thing for everyone to do is maximize your ISA allowance every single year, but don't just have it in a cash ISA. Don't just put it into some fund which is managed by somebody else and they're going to take 40% of your profit. Learn how to invest that into correct, stable. And one of the things that I focus in on is only ETFs, exchange traded funds. And there's hundreds of them out there. I don't believe in individual companies because an individual company could go to zero. Tesla could go to zero. Apple could go to zero. You've only got to look at what happened to Kodak back in the 2000s. What happened to Blockbuster? They should have sold to Netflix, right? So I'm not a stock picker. I'm not an analyst. I don't have 8 screens. I'm not researching companies 8 hours a day. But what I am is an investor. And the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, gold, silver, there's lots of things and different strategies that you can use within funds to generate income.
If you were to pick one of those strategies, what do you think the most kind of profitable is and why? Is that your favorite?
Okay, so even just holding the S&P 500 or, which if you're going to do that in your ISA, a ticker symbol for that is VUSA or if you're going to do the NASDAQ 100, it's EQQQ. If you only did that for you and your family and you did nothing else and you managed your stops over the next 10 or 20 years, even that alone is going to do better than just having the money sitting in the bank. That's easy. Most people can do it, you know, with their eyes closed, once you just know the buying signals and when to be in and when to be out of the market. So that's really good. Another thing that you can do is you can use income strategies in the market. So you can sell puts and calls and you can generate income. That's a really good one. Do about 18% a year on that strategy. Takes less than 5 minutes a day to do. It's the easiest money I've ever made, to be fair. And another one which I like, and again, I just want to make it clear, I'm not giving any financial advice out on here. Yeah. You've got to do your own research and due diligence and get the education. But the only crypto you'll ever see me buying pretty much is Bitcoin. And that's a long-term play. That's a hold for the next 10 or 20 years.
What are your thoughts on crypto outside of Bitcoin?
Don't touch it. It could all just go to zero.
I read something interesting the other day. It's conspiracy, but some people believe that crypto is the biggest kind of spank to transfer wealth from working ordinary people to the elites. There's no real way to know whether that's true or not at this stage. It's interesting you say Bitcoin's the only one you would hold. Why?
Yeah, and again, I'm not some Bitcoin expert. I'm wrapped around a few people, mentors of mine that are much smarter than me. They do more research than me, and I believe that you've got government adoption right now. You've got institutions buying in right now. You've got BlackRock and all these other major institutions releasing ETFs on Bitcoin, so there's been huge adoption with this investment over the last few years. I believe there's something only like 21 million coins or something available, and they people are buying up. So with the knowledge that I know, I believe it's a long-term hold, and I believe it will continue to go up.
Probably the safest one, because you think if Bitcoin fails, then definitely everything else is fucked, like in crypto. Like it's definitely obviously the safest one.
And look, you've got people out there that love crypto, and I'm not saying don't do it, but you've got people out there and it's their life and they're making so much money from it. When I've tried to do stuff on my own in the past and be a stock picker and buy low and sell high and get involved with all these altcoins, all that ever happened is that my emotions kicked in and I lost a serious amount of cash.
Yeah.
So for me now, property, really good, stable income. Property goes up, you get your income. If you manage it correctly, doesn't take up much work. Have an incredible business, turn your passion into profit, get out there and help people and have a great business that's profitable, and then move as much money as you can into safe, secure investments. Yeah, might not be making hundreds and hundreds of % on one investment, but I'm 44 now, and for me, I've realized that actually just steady Eddie, safe, secure will always win.
Talking about property, right? I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I like the fact with property, it's there. You can touch it, feel it, see it, smell it. So there's a lot of people that say they want to wait for another situation like 2008 when the property market prices just crashed. A lot of people thought it was going to happen during COVID, after COVID, we're in a recession. Is it going to happen now? What would you say to those who are waiting for another property crash before they buy?
If you are waiting, you are going to lose. That is the reality, yeah? If you are waiting, you are going to lose. No one knows when or if a crash is coming. And even when a crash happens, so when the market is crashing or when the market is booming, there are good deals and bad deals always to be had. So you're much better off learning about property, understanding your area, really niching into maybe 2 or 3 strategies which are going to be your favorite strategies, And doesn't matter what's going on with interest rates, doesn't matter what's going on in the news, doesn't matter what's going on with elections, doesn't matter what's going on with the economy, just continually go out there and find some really good deals.
Yeah.
Because once you've got the asset, you either own it or control it, you've got the asset. And then if there is some market crash and you've got some cash, then great, go in and clean up. But
I guess over time, it's always going to compound anyway, right? Which makes sense. For the home you live in, we ask a lot of guests this. So for the home you live in, I mean, are you more team rent or team buy for where you live?
I own my house and I've got a small mortgage on it. However, if I was starting again and it was like, oh, I really want to get on the property ladder, and there's a lot of pressure. It's the dream, isn't it? Yeah. You know, go and get that corporate job. You know, it's what the banks want you to do. They want you to get the car finance. They want you to have the 5 credit cards. They want you to go and get the window finance. They want you to go and get the kitchen finance. They want you to, you know, a bank is designed, and the dream that we've been sold is they want people wrapped up in 6 or 7 finance deals in their early 20s. Because the moment they do that, they've got you for life. You're fucked. So if I was starting out, I would not be stressing about owning my own house. I would own property, but I would own investment property. And only when I'm making enough money from my investment property portfolio or my stock market investment portfolio, only then would I use profits to then go and pay for my future mortgage.
So for somebody starting out who might have saved for a house deposit, say they've got 50,000 in the bank, right? And they're starting to think about...
Just asking for a friend again.
Asking for a friend. So they were thinking about buying a place, but they're now starting to think maybe buying a property could be a better option for investment. What would be a good starter deal for someone who's just getting involved in property? Is it buy to let? Is it a flip? Is it up north? Is it down south?
It really depends on personal preference. Look, you could go and buy up north and property's cheaper, but you don't quite get the capital appreciation. Having said that, you know, many parts over the last 5 or 6 years have really done well. You know, Birmingham's done well, Liverpool's done well. Even places in and around Newcastle, they've seen some really nice growth. So we don't know what the future holds. And could you go there and make more money, and you go here, you make a bit less money? What I look for in every single property deal is it profitable? When am I going to get my initial investment capital back? Is it in an area where we're going to potentially see, I think capital appreciation is really important. How can I get my money out of the deal? So recycle my cash. So buy, refurbish, refinance. You always want to focus in on adding as much value as you can. So the golden rule is £1 into £3 where possible. Doesn't always work. But if you spend 20,000 on a refurb, ideally that would like to increase the property by 60,000. And just keep buying up those assets. But you know, I still love single lets. You know, I really do, yeah. And I've got a deal sourcer, and you know, if I can do 5 or 6 of those a year, like just tick over. You know, let's say you've got someone starting out now. Let's just say single let is the strategy, because it's buy, refurbish, refinance. You can still go and get some really good mortgage deals. You get a long-term tenant in there, and just let time do its thing. Let time do its thing. But even if you became a property investor today and all you did was 2 deals a year, well, in 20 years, you've done 40 deals. You've got a portfolio which is going to be worth potentially tens of millions of pounds. So I would just say start now. And do what's the most easiest for you, and if that's buy to lets, do buy to lets.
Makes sense. And for the viewers who could be listening, who may be wanting to break out of the rat race, they have the drive to do something, they just don't really know where to start, and they've kind of gone into analysis paralysis with so much information out there. What advice would you give to them for them to become a better version of themselves and kind of break free of those invisible handcuffs? What would you advise them?
That is such a good question, and I'll try to keep it to a few minutes. So a few points. You've just got to get rid of all the negative noise around you. You don't need permission from your partner. You don't need anyone to agree with you. You just know that where you are now is not serving you, and this is where you want to go. Then you've got to go and find somebody out there that is doing the thing that you want to do, and make sure you do your research, make sure you do your due diligence. There's a lot of noise out there, and there's a lot of people making false claims. So you've got to go and find the good people. Go and find the person or the group that really resonates with you, and go and attach yourself to them. Pay for some type of advanced training to increase your skill set. Pay and invest in yourself to get around people as your mentor, and start to map out your plan, your launch, and be consistent every single day. Be relentless. You don't have to do loads every day, because I get it, people are busy and they've got lives, but I call it 3 minimum actions. So as long as you can do 3 actions per day, and let's just call it 6 days a week, that's 18 actions a week. Let's just round it up to 20. And you do that every week for the next 4 weeks. That's 80 actions you've taken on your thing. It's almost impossible not to fail. Yeah. So consistency is really key. And I also believe in the triangle, which is mind, body, and spirit. You've got to look after your mind. You've got to look after your body, and you've got to look after your spirit. Eat well, sleep well, get around good people, daily meditation if need be, motivational videos. But the most important thing is to get into a group of people that can support you and pick you up, that you can bounce ideas with. That's what I would say. And if you do that, you're certainly on the start of some greatness. Allow yourself to have some setbacks. It's not all going to be, singing in the sunshine. There's going to be a few ups and downs. You're going to get a few haters, but don't let anyone or anything get in your way. But increase your skill set, increase your education, get a great mentor. I've been doing this myself for the last decade, and it's been an absolute game changer. So if there's anyone tuning in now and they do want to hook up, I've actually just launched a brand new Instagram account, Liam J. Ryan UK. I'm posting loads of stuff on there daily, reels, investing, property, mindset stuff. So drop us a follow. I'll follow you back, and we can start building a great relationship.
Just for the record, I think that was one of the best conclusions of a podcast as an answer we've ever had. So, Liam, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me on, honestly. I've really enjoyed this. And thanks to the whole team and our man behind the camera there working his magic.
Yeah, honestly, it's been great, man. I think the viewers are going to get a lot of value from this. If you are tuning in, make sure you like, follow and subscribe to the Multipliers Club. See you soon.